Hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about 5G, and the time is now, finally. I'm Richard Britton. I'm head of digital consultancy here at MediaCom. Alongside me today, we're going to have Mark from Verizon Media. We're going to be discussing 5G and its potential huge impact on the world we're living in today. But as the title suggests, we've been talking about it for a while. So what does it really mean now in this watershed moment in the UK? We're specifically going to look at the acceleration of the physical and digital integration of 5G in the world, and also the impact that COVID's had on the acceleration as well, from a consumer point of view, but also really looking more holistically at the world from global, but in particular in the UK, where it's, as I say, a bit of a watershed moment. So as I said, I'm Richard Bryn, head of the consultancy here at MediaCom as part of Blink Consultancy, and then we've got Mark.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Melling. I'm head of Riot Studio and the 5G lead for Verizon Media in EMEA. Just a bit about Riot, so you know where we're coming from and why I talk about 5G so much as part of my role. We were acquired by Verizon in April 2016. We were the first VR content exit in world history. Actually, according to Crunchbase, particularly on the content side, it's crazy to think about that now. You know, only 4 years later, how rapidly that area of XR has grown as a medium. What we do as a unit within Verizon is that we take full advantage of working for a huge telco, a technology company, one of the leaders in 5G technology, and we sit in between that area of the business and, of course, our Verizon media platforms. To put it simply, we use technology to work with Verizon's clients to help close the gap between their digital strategy and their physical bricks and mortar strategy. We've been investing really heavily in 3D, virtual production, and most recently, we launched the world's first 5G powered studio in LA and the world's second 5G powered studio in London earlier this year. So from my standpoint, where our team comes from, we don't just talk about 5G technology. We are using it now in real time. And I'm going to be showing you some of the examples, use cases of how we've been using that technology today. Over to you, Rich, to maybe talk about Blink a little bit.
Great. Yeah. So I think that's the thing that Riot and Blink have in common is that our remit really is to help organizations with the changing landscape of technology and in particularly 5G and how that can impact your consumers, your organization, but not just looking at it as an innovative product, but actually what does that mean here today? So we're going to spend some good amount of time talking around that and where it is actually steeped in the real world as we live in it today. That being said, the world is changing. I think that much is completely evident. And the rapid nature of that change, especially during the unfortunate pandemic that we find ourselves in at the moment and going into another lockdown now is incredibly prevalent, that we're seeing this accelerated change in 5G. Now, the way in which we look at it is not so much that this is the only reason that 5G is coming to the fore. It's just really is an accelerant. We're already seeing quite a lot of change in the market going pre-COVID, but it is undoubtable that the acceleration is incredible during it. So you only need to look at some research from IBM's 2020 Retail Index report that suggests that habits are obviously changing digitally, but in particular around digital shopping and the need for added connectivity. So roughly over the last 7 months, that report showed that we've accelerated by roughly 5 years. So it's very real, it's happening, and getting in front of it and making sure that you're in the best position for your consumers and for your business is really important. So Blink Consulting can certainly help with that, and we'll talk more at the end about how we can continue that conversation with you. So we're going to talk about 3 different areas today. So the when, how, and the what. Firstly, the when. So what's the actual timeline associated with 5G? So it's been a buzzword for a while, big showcases of what the technology can do, hyperconnectivity, all really exciting stuff. But what does it really mean globally? And what does it really mean in the UK market today and over the coming months? It's, as I say, it has been a bit of a buzzword, but it is here. And then how can you harness it? What does it mean for your brand? Secondly, we're going to look at how a bit of a general 5G 101. So its impact on marketing in particular, and what does hyperconnectivity actually really mean in the way that we communicate with consumers, and then with a particular focus on bringing the physical and the digital strategies together like never before. And lastly, we're going to look at the current innovations that are out there in the marketplace right now, familiarize ourselves with them, and then really stimulate some thought around how that can be used again for your own brands. And right now, but certainly more so in the future as the 5G rollout starts to roll out. We'll give you some examples of that in e-commerce as well, as that's going to be very prevalent. So the £1 million question really is, what are the timelines for it? When is that watershed moment? We know that there's been a lot of talk around it and we can see the benefits, but really when is the mass adoption gonna take place of this technology? Well, the predictions are pretty bold. Statista identified 5G as the fastest growing technology in history. It's a pretty big claim, but the data starts to back it up. So projected to hit 1 billion consumers in just 3.5 years. And that's faster, to put it into context, than 3G and faster than 4G as well. So the adoption rate is pretty staggering. And when you look at what is already happening in a high growth area of Samsung, where this technology is already in the model, South Korea, already seeing 11% of mobile subscribers to 5G networks in just over a year since its launch. So you can see that accelerated growth when it's actually in the handset and people can see it, they can feel it. So how does that compare to the UK? Well, we are an iPhone nation. Over 51% of mobiles in the UK are iPhones. So with the news that Tim Cook announced early in October, about the new iPhone 12 lineup, with 5G technology being as part of that, and actually 5G being front and center throughout that lineup presentation, and the amount that Tim was talking around the 5G airwaves, the way that they're testing them, and the fact that they actually rolled out Mark's boss, the CEO, Hans Vestberg, to launch the carrier's low-band nationwide 5G network. It really did show that the biggest phone provider in the world is there. And because we're a 5G nation, it just, again, like we're seeing in South Korea, shows that the adoption rate should start to come through if we start to follow that growth that we're seeing in other markets where 5G technology is already available. So as we're starting to see that happening, so from a device point of view, a handset point of view, and also a pretty aggressive rollout of 5G networks from the UK government, you've got a really potent combination there where we really are at a watershed moment for 5G. So it's finally really here, and we expect it to move at pace as we go through the next few months, and certainly going in through the next few years. So that's what's happening with the technology into the handset. We've got awareness there already, but actually what's really interesting, when Verizon did some fantastic research into this, asking consumers what they thought of adopting 5G for themselves, the numbers were backing this up. So 24% of those polled said they would upgrade in 12 months. And that actually went up by a further 9% to 33% of 18 to 34-year-olds, as we know that demographic is very keen on connectivity and the speed of that as well. What's being cited behind that move towards a faster hyperconnectivity is the speed, as you can imagine, being right there behind it. And I don't know about you, but it's also during this period of lockdown, just even having home broadband and the problems that have potentially come with that on Zoom calls, actually having 5G as a reliable source as well, inside and outside the home is certainly a big driver. So we've got awareness, we've got it being available in technology, we can see that there's a demand, but what does this actually really mean? What does it mean to you? What does this mean to your consumers? And how do you harness that power, and how do you unlock it for your brand? So I'm going to hand over to Mark now to really go through some case studies and take you through a few of those.
Thanks, Rich. For that, let's first break down those advantages of 5G and see what the effects of that this advanced connectivity will have on what we're all talking about right now, what we're doing right now, which is virtual engagement. So Rich rightly pointed out, firstly, that what consumers think about when they think about 5G, they think of course, speed, and that's your peak data rate. We all know that 5G will give us faster phones, and hopefully we realize that also means faster devices. But when you think about connectivity, and even if you think about physical connectivity, if you're building a train from London to Manchester, high-speed train from London to Manchester, true story, it's not just the speed of the train that in which it travels that determines that train's utility, right? It's the amount of cargo and the amount of people that it can carry, and the same thing goes in terms of mobile networks, in terms of data volume. How much data can it carry at any given time, and that increases exponentially with 5G, which means that devices in your hands or devices in your person or devices in your car not only get faster, but they get better capabilities. And what's even more important with that, when you bring in latency, which is the amount of time it takes for data to travel back and forth to a given device, when you now have a huge amount of data that you can transmit back and forth to a device in real time, it doesn't so much mean that your device gets smarter, but that it has access to smarter devices that are further away. So that's why everyone's now talking about cloud technology, right? The ability to use a simple device, but access is something, and this is already happening right now, access to something as complicated and robust as Watson to deal with everyday problems with your devices becomes quite interesting. So augmented reality, 3D content in real time, and interactivity becomes something that is not a view of the future, but really resides in the power of the devices in our pockets. And with that high speed, robust data, and zero latency, we then start to see other advantages of 5G that become very excited on the connectivity side, right? Efficiency. So there's two parts to this. 5G is a much more efficient technology than 4G, 10 times more efficient. So that means battery sizes decrease, which means devices can decrease. So augmented reality, VR headsets that quite frankly look a bit silly now and start to decrease in size and actually resemble glasses that we would wear in our everyday lives, as well as the ability to be connected anywhere, anyhow, particularly when we're on moving transport. Anyone who's been on a plane, train, or automobile, unfortunately, the latter not so recently, knows that connectivity on those transports are a nightmare. It's not because of the Wi-Fi within the transport itself, within the plane itself. We've nailed Wi-Fi. We know how to transmit that to many devices. It's the connection to the plane. It's the connection to the train that cuts in and out, giving us shoddy Wi-Fi connection. So with 5G, you can stay connected with any moving object up to 500 kilometers an hour. That's about 5 times what we can do currently. So think of the impact of that in content consumption, from working while mobile, to the effect on mobile cars and automated cars networks and other movement that is dependent on network. And then last but not least is the ability to connect multiple devices in a dense space, which right now with 4G networks is not great. Think about the last time that, unfortunately, a while ago, that you walked into a stadium or a venue. It's like walking into a virtual black hole. Now, this is tough for people who are hosting those events because they can only really connect up to 1,000 or 10,000 devices, which means that people who are in sports stadiums or at music venues, they're losing one of the things that they like to do most when they attend events, especially the younger generation. Younger generations love to go to events, experience those events, but also share those experiences on social. And by reducing that ability for them to be able to do that with 4G, it's really reducing their enjoyment of that experience. With 5G, that change becomes a revolutionary change for many of those attending events when we do get back out there. And I mentioned those younger generations. They are the ones actually that have been saying for some time, I do experience poor connectivity, and look at how that's even changed after lockdown came into play. Now, 71% of all consumers say, "Look, I actually now get that my connection it wasn't as good as I thought it was," and it's even greater for the younger demos. But even the entire populace, 71% is quite a lot of people realizing, we're just not as connected as maybe we thought we were before. 18-24s are twice as likely to relate that poor reception to outer spaces, because they really do want to go to these venues and share what they're doing, and they are also realizing they're leading in this place, and they're actually the ones who say we've been talking about poor connectivity for years, and it's about time everyone else started to realize that we actually do need a next step in advanced connectivity. And this is the effect of lockdown. This is what we really have to see is a big change. That frustration of not being able to connect physical and digital experiences that young people have been experiencing for quite a while now has now hit the mainstream. This obviously has benefits for 5G and the recognition of what it can bring to the mass consumer market. This change represents just 6 months. So we ran this survey right before lockdown, and about 45% said they realized the recognition of 5G, up to 60 in just 6 months. Think about what an impact, external impact it would have to be to raise any metric by 15% over the course of 6 months. And of course, they're now starting to see, now that they're seeing the benefits of 5G, starting to imagine those applications as well, up 14% versus the beginning of lockdown. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now, is show you some of those use cases, applications that show off the benefits of 5G. As I mentioned before, as a 5G lead for Verizon, I do work in this technology every day. So these are real use cases using real 5G that we've done over the past 12 months. I'm going to start somewhere that's actually not 5G. In fact, I'm going to start very much in a 4G world. As Rich mentioned, COVID-19 has supercharged all things virtual, propelling industries like retail well into the future, and shifting e-commerce basically to half a decade forward. AR applications have been on the rise during this time. Try before you buy experiences are now ranging from previewing furniture and products in your home to with everyday brands like IKEA, B&Q, Home Depot in the US, to virtually trying on luxury brands like Louis V and Gucci. These were once a nice to have feature. Now during lockdown, has quickly become essential for retailers. Now, I want you to do something for me. Get out your phone, open up your camera, and just focus on that QR code there. And you can do this while I'm talking, no problem. I do want to mention there's still barriers and challenges. Remember, I'm talking a 4G world right now. Is AR and what we're doing right now truly integrated into our physical world? There still is a lot of downloading, right? To download an app to do AR, whether that's Snapchat or TikTok, that's still a download. That's still a walled garden. But if you're doing this right now, you can see actually using this QR code, you're not downloading an app, and you're actually moving into something called Web AR. Now, Web AR is a sneaky little advancement that's happened robustly over the last 6 months of lockdown, that has been integrated into publishers all over the world. It means you don't have to download an app. So if you see this example of Ford's launch of the Mustang Mach-E, you should be able to place that anywhere in your room. Of course, we have to look at ways that we can bring these virtual experiences into the physical world, but also do it in a way that's frictionless. And this here is certainly advancement. But if this is the 4G world, what are we missing here? So There's not multiple items. It's still complicated to do all of this stuff. It's expensive to create that AR automobile. So let's look at what actually 5G can bring to the world of retail.
Evercoast is a computer vision and 3D sensing software company focused on volumetric capture. We basically turn people into holograms. We surround a character or performer with dozens of cameras and capture them simultaneously to render them into a single 3D model in motion, in real time. 5G enables us to process this content in what would normally take hours or days. We can do it now in minutes using a single server here. Normally we'd have to have a farm of servers in here to capture this stuff, but with 5G's super speed, low latency network, and an edge compute environment, we can send the processing of this data off-site for record time post-processing, and then distribution out to the consumer or business in the blink of an eye. So you can imagine the dressing room of the future. Someone could be in here trying on a dress or any clothing and have that multicast to his or her friends. We're talking about corporate training, 3D scanning, gaming, entertainment, music, sports. Just about any industry will get disrupted by this.
So that's one of the major barriers right there, right? The cost of producing something like that with current connectivity, it's expensive, labor intensive. But then the second biggest barrier, which is getting people to consume it. It's amazing, yes, but that's only one item that we've been able to show you before. What about multiple items and multiple data reads?
Today we're demonstrating a 5G computer vision experience that's specifically focused on augmented reality in retail. 4G with augmented reality today only allows you to augment one object at a time. With 5G, we're able to augment every object that's within your field of view. In this experience, a user will be able to take a smartphone, a tablet, or even a pair of smart glasses and look at a number of objects on the shelf and see information overlaid on top of that in real time. Here we're demonstrating the ability to identify allergens within products quickly and easily. This experience is a little bit more fun. We're looking at ratings and reviews and product information that you would typically find online. Here we're taking that online information and bringing it quickly into the real world. So we've got a number of beauty products that are providing information, ratings, high-level benefits, help me make more informed and rapid decisions about purchasing. In a few years, we can take all of this capability and move it off the tablet or smartphone to eliminate doing this and put it onto a pair of glasses. So essentially, as you're walking down the aisle, passively you'll see product information without having to do anything specific like taking your phone out of your pocket.
So what does that mean for when we bring it back into the physical space, into the larger space that we're trying to now solve for within lockdown? And we've seen many changes in the virtual event space and in the live event space. There's a lot to try and make a connection out of, but really only two things are happening. One, we're moving events into the virtual space and integrating live aspects into that. Which we're going to look at now, and two, which we're going to look at in a minute, is we're looking at live space, and we're doing the opposite, which is integrating virtual aspects for the enjoyment of consumers, both in situ and at home. I'm sure many of you know this example here. This is during lockdown, rapper Travis Scott launched his new single, in which he would have done in of course in a live space. He did virtually in the middle of the hugely popular game Fortnite. Of course, he would have reached tens of thousands, maybe 100,000, hundreds of thousands of people if he had went on tour live. But by doing this within this popular video game virtually, he managed to hit 27 million unique viewers. And of course, that's huge. That's that incredible scale that we can only dream of. But what does this mean when we're actually trying to do things that don't have the native scale, something like a like Fortnite video game or massive budget? So, right, to bring photoreal content into a virtual setting like that, live in real time for people to view without any lag or buffering, that takes connectivity like 5G. So here's an example of what we had just done at the end of last year with Disney, with the Rise and Skywalker Line. Now, all of that you see on the other side of the screen is augmented reality. It's all being done and acted out in real time from a studio over 150 miles away, but it's all photoreal. It's all high fidelity, and it's something that you just couldn't do with current connectivity. But what we're then starting to see is what this actually means for the future. We all know that after we walk away from COVID and back into what we feel like is the real world again, there are some learnings that we're going to have that are going to impact the way that the world changes for the better. And particularly, we're already starting to see that with the dawn of live events with virtual integration. Here we see a very simple example of that in the English Premier League, for example. Without crowd noises, the experience kind of felt quite awkward for many viewers at home. So what did they do? They integrated game technology from FIFA 2020, the crowd noises into now these live events to replicate what we would otherwise see when before lockdown. And we're also seeing that in terms of VR. This is what we're doing. We just did with the NBA. We created VR experiences for those watching at home. Of course, the NBA playoffs this year were done in a bubble without any fans. So we started integrating VR with the NBA so they could see this in multiple views in virtual reality, now watching at home. So we need to ask ourselves that now that all of this groundwork has been done, this type of fan experience that we once, are we really going to move away from that once we get back to the new normal? And likely not. And the real key here is think about the opportunity here for brand integration, sponsorship opportunities, of giving fans these exclusive views and access. It could be a very lucrative marketing business. Now, what does that mean with 5G? Of course, you saw there are still some challenges with things like with VR. This is what we've done with 5G Cloud. It means, again, higher fidelity, just basically more realistic content that we can provide with robust networks like 5G. And last but not least, I'll move over to what we've been doing with American football, because the stuff that I showed you is very cool. But again, what does it mean when fans are back into the stadium? Well, if we're still on 4G, it means back to the bad old days where fans can't even get a signal in the stadiums, let alone enhance their experiences. But as you can see here, what we did with the Super Bowl with 5G, not only were we able to keep fans connected, very important, in the stadium, but we're also to enhance their in-stadium experiences through some really cool real-time augmented reality enhancements with that gave things like 360 viewing of the game, layering on of stats, win probabilities, and abilities to do e-commerce within the stadium seats at home. And then when you bring that into the at-home experience, we've just released a new capability where we're bringing the stadium, which of course has no fans, into the home, bringing them to the living room. This Play AR app that we've developed, launched directly for Yahoo Sports, and it allows AR replays of any plays within the game. Now, again, this is just the beginning. This is very much the 4G of what we're able to do. But bringing in 5G, we're able to then make these actual replays, actual 3D volumetric replays. And that's really the point. These 5Gs, the 5G examples that I've just shown, it's shown that we've seen significant uplift in once people see these types of replays, and now they're these types of use cases. Now they're interested in seeing this stuff, that actually they start to get excited about what 5G can do to them. And every day we're seeing more and more of these use cases rolled out, and particularly over lockdown. It was only 40% of people could actually envision this before lockdown, now up to 54% in just 6 short months. So I think this is truly a watershed moment in adoption. Richard, do you want to cap it off, please?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, there's some they're really interesting, exciting case studies there, and I hope that's some stimulation for you to think about how that could be adopted by your brands and be brought to your customers well. And we'd certainly love to continue that conversation about how that could be a reality. So just to wrap up, so from a when point of view, so 5G is certainly moving at pace. It's the fastest growing technology in history. UK really does feel like it's on the cusp of mass adoption with iPhone launch, plus that big government investment. So the time really does feel like it's finally now. How? So 5G's immediate impact to supercharge, as Mark's just taken us through, technology such as AR, VR, and edge compute is there. And as we're starting to see, it actually used at mass level in various different countries, the excitement building, consumers are going to want to see it more. And brands that really harness that are going to be propelled forward and beat competition there. Lockdown has increased awareness even more of that connectivity gap, as I was talking about earlier, which which a follow on from that is actually it's increasing the need for 5G demand, and also searches for 5G information and what it can actually achieve are on the rise also. And what? So 5G is really eliminating that friction points, so bringing the physical and the digital together, as those use cases have clearly quite shown in a quite dramatic fashion. And that immediate impact being seen in e-commerce. So as much as it is a very engaging experience, bringing that into e-commerce to drive performance as well is incredibly important, and it's happening today and will continue to happen at pace. So that was a wrap up of that. Thank you very much for joining us. So just finally, as I've said a couple of times, we'd love to continue this conversation. So please do drop me a line, and we would like to talk around how 5G can be unlocked for your business.